So there are a lot of ingredients that lead up to what makes a successful language learner. And finding high quality input is definitely one of them. Anything that you can consume through reading or listening. It will definitely help you pick up more intuitively on how a language works, instead of feeling like you have to memorize any sort of grammar tables, as well as getting used to simply picking up context clues to better grasp the whole main idea, even though you don't understand every single word. So how should you go about finding the right input for yourself? Now here, I always suggest that you start picking out a topic that you care about. And notice that I didn't say to necessarily pick a topic that you're passionate about, right? That is a great option for what you care about. However, you don't necessarily have to love it. You can still dislike it or feel strongly about this topic. That's how news channels have been getting our attention for years, decades even. I would advise the only topics to stay away from are things that you are neutral or don't really care about. In preparation, maybe for a fluency oral exam or an official language learning exam, right? We have to read about topics that we don't necessarily feel strongly about. However, when you are not being graded for any sort of performance in your language, it's really crucial to pick what matters to you. So say, for example, that I'm at an intermediate level and I pick psychology as the topic that I care about. I find it interesting, and there are a lot of subtopics that I can get out of this one main topic as well. Once you have your topic that you care about, you can go to any one of the following search engines, and these are some of my favorites. Youglish is a absolutely great way to see relevant content all at once. You essentially go to Youglish, go to the search bar, set your language, and then after putting in the word or phrase of your topic, get relevant YouTube videos. Get relevant YouTube videos where the speakers use that exact word or phrase, and you can have a lot of fun hearing different voices talk about the same or related topics using different speeds, different rhythms, maybe a little bit of cadence, maybe different accents, especially if you are learning Spanish. You'll probably get a plethora of videos that come from different Spanish-speaking countries. Another great way to get in both listening and speaking input, especially if you are at an intermediate level and up in your target language, is to go to TED Talks, because not only do they have all of their videos sort of in a catalog for you to browse, you can also get transcripts in numerous languages, even less popular ones to learn. And of course, a lot of the TED Talks are in English. So if you prefer not to listen to English, then you can still profit off taking the transcript, copy, paste it into one of my Google Docs. You can add any sort of notes, any highlights, any translations that you want to add. Lingui, I think is how it's called, is a great way for finding articles for readings. They will give different example sentences, but you can also look at where the example sentences were taken from. Click on it, discover a website or a blog that you may not have ever known about. ChatGPT is also a great way to help you dissect further reading content that you are already consuming, and or help suggest you more videos so you don't have to even go to the search engine itself. Now you can see a lot of this exemplified in my video about how I use ChatGPT to learn Turkish. However, I'm going to give you an example about what kind of prompt I would use in order to get ChatGPT to give me these quality input resources. Hi, I'm a language learner at a beginner, intermediate, or advanced level who wants to language goal via language skill you want to improve. Can you suggest me the number of appropriate resources on the internet in preferred format that preferred limit? So if you want a certain number of words or you want a certain topic, then you can add that all at the end. So you can do that either for looking for reading input or listening input for your desired topic, and or you can already use what you have previously worked on, such as copy and pasted transcript from TED Talks that we talked about in the previous chapter of this video, and maybe ask it to analyze that whole text for you. Ask it, hey, can you come up with maybe 5-10 comprehension questions for me that I will only be able to answer having read through this article. You can do the same thing with a video as long as you have the transcript for it, because just putting in a link for the video that you listen to in ChatGPT, they won't be able to get automatically the transcript in order to make those questions. So just a little note on the side. And then if you don't have an article beforehand that you want to paste, you can also just ask ChatGPT to create an article for you for reading specifically, and then put in all of your limits that you want to set, the parameters, and then afterwards you can ask it the same thing. Hey, ChatGPT, can you give me whatever comprehension questions using these specific vocab words, using some of this specific grammar under this specific topic? And then as you do input and just read what ChatGPT gave you, you can practice the exact words and phrases that you want to intuitively recognize more in context, which is great. Now, other ways to find quality input. I love any sort of library apps that might be available to you. In the United States, that looks like an app called Libby. And on the app, but you can also do it on desktop, you can browse any of their language sections. You can get any sort of ebooks or audiobooks from different languages, but you can also just go directly to libraries, bookstores, just to browse the books, the magazine section, and the articles in person. I could spend hours literally doing this, you guys. And once I find a book that I like, I enjoy either translating every single word in detail on intensive reading days when I have high energy, and just enjoying the content for what it is on low energy days for extensive reading. If you want to learn more about my simplified reading system, then definitely check out the video in the corner above after this one. Another example of really great high quality input is especially for beginners, and that is looking for children's books. Specifically, you can Google children's books read-alongs on YouTube, where a native speaker usually is going to read the text out to you, but you're also going to get, the really nice pictures and illustrations that usually come with children's books to really help solidify what you are listening to. I personally, as a beginner, have found that memorizing either numbers or animals or food, all topics that children usually cover in their own books, are really hard for me to learn for some reason. They just don't stick, and they're not the most important topics that I like to learn about when I'm starting a language. So children's books are really helpful in mitigating this conflict. Now, in terms of podcasts, there are so many that are made for language learners specifically across multiple languages. And you can try to find podcasts that are slightly above your level to make your listening a little bit more challenging, or right above or below your level to make your listening input a little bit less challenging, just depending on the day and how you feel. Some great examples of this are News in Slow blank, German, French, Italian, you name it, any sort of the coffee languages podcasts, and any sort of slow blank. So slow German, slow Italian, slow French. You can start there, and then there will be always in the recommended section new podcasts to also try out. What I also recommend is looking for graded readers for language learners specifically. So any sort of short stories for beginners, intermediates, advanced by Ollie Richards are very useful to use if you enjoy the sort of content matter, because sometimes the stories can be a little bit cheesy. You can also use parallel text or bilingual book. So they have the original in your target language novel on one side and the translation on the other side in English. I also love going to just Spotify and typing in the top hits in whatever country of my target language. And even though English songs are highly known and listened to around the world, you can also be sure to find a lot of different artists who sing in their own language. And you can also see if they've done any sort of features or collaborations with other artists in their niche, and kind of just go down different rabbit holes on Spotify to find different artists that you care about. I actually love the website Lyrics Training for this, because you listen to the music and then you get to fill in the gaps of what you think they had sung about. And also, maybe one of the simplest ways to find input is simply going to Google and search by your level and your topic. So this formula, as an example, might look like A2 listening about food, German beginner YouTube travel vlog, French dialogues for everyday conversation. And this really targets level appropriate material instead of just bringing you content for native speakers if you're not quite ready for that. These are great ways to not only find high quality input, but also learn to be genuinely okay with not understanding every single thing, learning to live with ambiguity, and still enjoy the language all the while. Even in my advanced languages, especially when I take a break from them, but sometimes even when I haven't understood every single person I've encountered in that language 100%, and it's fine. I understood the main ideas and I could still converse with them, write to them, etc. Progress over perfection wins every time, and everything we do in our languages gets to count, language learners. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you again in another video. Subscribe if you want more content like this, and see you next time.